Hello and welcome back to Tell Me What You Really Think on our new weekly schedule after the Substack was put fondly to rest and the content was ported to AmericanMind.org. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast feed, now would be a great time to do so, since, as I mentioned, that is how you will get these episodes and other special editions, plus, of course, the Roundtable Main Event American Mind podcast. I am joined today, I believe, from New York. I think you haven't gone off anywhere else, by our managing editor, Seth Barron. Seth, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And yes, I am in New York.
Okay. You had a brief sojourn on the coasts, right?
Oh, yes. I left the city and I went to the beach for a few days.
Very nice. All right. Well, that sounds lovely. Glad you're back. You had a really smart piece on AmericanMind.org, which I would like to read a piece of and then ask you about. Afghanistan. So this piece, I should say, is called Afghanistan and the Limits of Woke Discourse. It's about the inability to explain the disaster in Kabul and Afghanistan more generally through any kind of critical theory lens or any one of the main predominantly race-based sort of cockamamie analyses that our ruling class has gotten used to trotting out, and in many cases, as you note, successfully. But you write, Afghanistan is a major problem for anyone who has gotten used to explaining the world strictly in terms of how American blacks are disadvantaged by society. Our discourse has been locked in a diving bell for so long that ostensibly intelligent people have forgotten how to look at reality and make observations and draw conclusions. The professional explainers are like stroke victims trying to describe breakfast. And you draw some relatively white-pilled conclusions from this, that perhaps this disaster will scuttle plans to pass another $4.5 trillion in pointless spending and so forth. Since you wrote this, Seth, it seems to me that the response of the ruling class and the professional explainers has been, since they can't wave this away as a result of systemic racism or whatever, has been just to flatly pretend that it is not happening. I mean, Jen Psaki said something to the effect of there are no Americans stranded in Kabul at a press conference recently. And that's kind of, in my view, that seems to be kind of emerging as their strategy. Do you think that that is what they're going for, that kind of Hail Mary, and do you think it'll work?
Yeah, that does seem like what they're going for, just to say, no, everything's fine. Don't panic, everything's fine. We're doing what we need to do. This was obviously a very difficult operation and logistically challenging, but we've already succeeded, and we're like, it's amazingly good. I think the damage has already been done reputationally. At least the poll numbers show a huge dive. The media doesn't seem willing to accept this narrative. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I would say the Democrats have gotten used to receiving fawning media coverage. I mean, what was the last time that the mainstream media said anything critical about Democratic leadership?
Right.
You just haven't heard it. So I think now, they're not used to it. So they're having a little bit of trouble, negotiating that. And look, I mean, maybe they're right. If they wind up getting everybody out that they need to get out in the next 10 days or week or whatever they say they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Maybe it'll work. It seems, from what I gather, it sounds like there's still a lot of Americans over there who are having trouble getting where they need to go and so forth. And certainly, all of these, ostensible allies that were expected to rescue, I don't think we're going to get them out. Now, whether that's good or bad, that's another question. Look, it's a terrible, the optics of people clinging to the underside of airplanes and falling off. It's just so horrible. Yeah. There's no way you can pretend, oh yes, well, we anticipated that.
Right. This was all part of the plan. I mean, the media element of it is kind of interesting to me because, yeah, I mean, Biden's underwater in the Real Clear approval ratings. I think it's the first time since he took office. And I was just listening to 538, sort of asking before all this happened. Biden was starting to dip a little bit. And they were kind of asking why that was happening. And now, it's a totally different ballgame. You're seeing criticisms come out of CNN and so forth that you would never see in an Obama administration. You just haven't seen it in forever. I mean, your theory of the case is basically that this is an internal ruling class squabble, right? This is the generals and the military industrial complex throwing a tantrum because they didn't want out. They refused out over and over again. And when Biden kind of pulled the trigger, then they made a purposeful, gigantic mess of it. There's also like a sort of another strain floating out there that I wanted to ask you about, which is like when CNN and MSNBC start criticizing a Democratic administration, you should be worried because they have something planned. Like they've got some kind of sinister plot to use this to entrap you. Do you ascribe to that at all? Do you think there's anything that we're not seeing here, or is this kind of a straightforward open shut case?
Oh, I mean, to my eye, Biden should watch out whatever they're giving him to, whatever's in his morning orange juice.
Right. Besides the Xanax or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like, or his Adderall. I mean, I feel like, they could be poised to have him have a convenient stroke or something, and then move him aside. I'd be. Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable how quickly they seem to have turned on him.
Right.
And I don't know where it goes from here, but regarding the generals and the intelligence community and the military industrial complex and defense contractors and, the CIA and the media. I don't think they're actually that happy about leaving Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I mean, what you got to realize is like of the $2 trillion that was spent over the last 20 years or however much it turns out to have been, it's not like all that money was just poured into the sands of Afghanistan.
Right.
Certainly a lot of it was, but a lot of it made its way back to the DC metro area. And to various, contractors and so forth, and consultants and Booz Allen types. That's been paying a lot of mortgages and inflating real estate values and all sorts of things, and paying for Gulf Streams and whatnot. So there's a lot of people who had a heavy duty interest in keeping that going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to my eye, this is all. Look, this is not. I was always against the invasion of Afghanistan. It always seemed like idiotic.
Yeah.
But and I was in favor of leaving. But to my eye, this is really a this is a fight that I don't have a dog in. Really, this is the regime having some kind of internal squabble. And they, like you said, I think that the generals just decided to show what happens if they're not, if their advice is not taken.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like you've said before, this debate about who's going to come next after Biden. Will it be Kamala? Will it be whoever? And, Kamala's so unlikable. But as you pointed out, it's kind of not about the American people. It's just like this internal squabble about internal monoparty politics. I mean, I would like to know kind of, this has obviously reminded us, and the position you articulate is one that I think Claremont generally has been pretty sympathetic to for like 20 years. This idea that this was a pretty misbegotten venture, and if it was going to be done, it should have been done very differently and so forth. And one of the things that this whole fiasco has reminded us of is just how captured the military is. I mean, another Claremont theme, right? How captured the upper echelons of the military are by people who have none of the concerns of the actual like folks who are going and fighting and dying. And I would like to know, like, what happens to those folks? Do they just get out before they can be promoted, or are they kept out, or does in fact being promoted into the military kind of like usher you into this cadre? I mean, what's your read on that?
I don't know exactly that much about internal military politics, but it seems to me that certain people are, there's a certain type who joins the military, and like the Pete Buttigieg types who, there's a weird sort of CIA, naval intelligence, McKinsey circuit.
Sure.
And certain people are tapped for it. And, I'm not saying it's it's any more nefarious than what it really is. I don't think there's anything necessarily like top secret or conspiratorial going on. I think it's just, plain organizational management theory at work. But, it's like the classic distinction between the brass and the grunts.
Yeah.
And some people are, there's an elite, and it selects for itself. And those people are, given the opportunity to retire and move into these prestigious positions as consultants and so forth. So, I think it's self-selecting, I guess.
Yeah. Well, grimly, this is depressing that this should be the case, but this is the most hopeful conversation I've had with you in a while, Seth. This is like an implosion of all the right people, although I suppose we can be kind of jaundiced about whether it will lead to any kind of like improvement.
Well, look, just to quantum pill you or black pill you, I think what they could be planning is, in response to this massive failure, is to pivot rapidly back to the main topic, which is white nationalist domestic terror.
Sure.
And I think we could be seeing like something new bubbling on the horizon soon in that regard, to take everybody's attention off this foreign policy failure.
Right. Yes.
So stay tuned.
Yes, I look forward to becoming classified as a domestic extremist. I suppose we're already, at this point, we're already in for a penny, but it'll be fun to reach the next level. Thanks, Seth.
Right.